I always say it rewires. I like that word because people understand what that means. Your brain, your emotional system, even your physical body, actually. And what I love so much is it does bring you that awareness that talk therapy and other modalities can't really necessarily bring you. And that is just a knowing. I call it a knowing. Like you touch on some sort of block or something that's in the way, or you get a download of a word and you get a knowing that, oh my goodness, wow, this is what's getting in the way. So there's almost an energetic connection that is not in our heads at all. The breath takes you into your heart, into your body, and you just are able to feel things on a totally new level, spiritual level, emotional level, energetic level. That's where the healing takes place, I think.
Welcome to the Good Life Coach podcast. I am your host, Michelle Lamoureux. The intention of this show is to awaken you to your fullest potential. Join me each week for inspiring interviews to elevate an area of your life, as well as interviews with women entrepreneurs who are creating success on their own terms. Each episode provides actionable tips to guide you to design a life you love. Hey there, it's Michelle Lamoureux. Welcome back to the show. Joining us today is Jay Bradley. And, I had all these questions I wanted to ask him. And before the mics went on, Jay shared that he just had this really traumatic experience just 4 days ago. And just for anyone listening, when you're interviewing someone, there's such an intimacy, especially I know Jay now through just having him out on the show, and I do his breathwork courses. And my heart is going out to you, and it's hard to just pretend like you didn't just tell me that. So can you share a little bit about what happened, and are you okay?
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Michelle. Yeah, I was sharing that I just got in a pretty bad car accident a few days ago. And, it just really caught me off guard. And I've never really been in a major car accident like that, where my car was totaled. And it just brought up a lot of stuff. And in fact, I'm going to include that in my newsletter on Friday because, I work with people with trauma, with a lot of struggles and emotional challenges. That's why I love using breathwork as a tool. And it just made me realize, we all have day-to-day traumas, whether they be big or large, or big or small, I should say. And so, this was just bringing up a lot of interesting emotion, and it's residual. So now I understand very well how trauma can affect the body and the mind, and it can be quite triggering. So, so here I am, thankful to be alive.
Thank God. Yeah. Well, Jay showed me a picture of his car. When he said it was totaled, and you've got some burns on your arms that you showed me from the airbag that thankfully was there to protect you.
Yes.
Because that looked like high impact. And sadly, you said that there were a couple people who caused the accident, a couple had to be rushed to the hospital. I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah, there was 5 people in their car, and 2 people, they had to be cut out and taken. I mean, it looked like they were okay. Hopefully some minor injuries, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But I did have the right of way, and but regardless, terrible to be a part of that. Yeah.
So scary. Well, it's true. We all have traumas, whether I call them sometimes like the little T traumas or the capital T traumas. I would call this a capital T trauma. What happened to you? Because just even if, I had a friend once just bump the back of my car when we were in our teen, 18, 19, just high school friend, just being a silly. But just that, even that little tap and you feel jolted is it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. Yeah. She was just trying to be funny. And I was thinking about, so to be hit that hard with that much speed and that impact, thank goodness you have breath work to work with to help release some of this.
Yes, I did a session earlier today for sure. And it was interesting because I realized things do get stored in our body. And I was, it's been a number of days, but I'm still revisiting and remembering. It's almost like you try to tell the police the story of what happened. I couldn't even remember.
Yeah.
That's shock, and that's how shock affects our system, and that's how trauma can affect our system. So
Yes.
it's amazing how your memory can disappear. I don't even remember which way I was driving.
Wow.
So it took me quite a while to settle in and figure out, oh yeah, this is what happened.
Mm.
And it's amazing also how the mind can create different scenarios of what I thought happened. So anyway, interesting. I'm grateful. Yes, I have angels on my side and Audi on my side. Thank you, Audi.
I'm glad we just gave a plug for Audi. I mean, I'm glad that it was able to be a strong enough vehicle to based on what you showed me with that picture. I mean, it was just demolished. So thank God you were protected, even though the car was not. How did you use the breath work? What did you do specifically? Did you think about the situation or just feel into your body, or what did you do?
Yeah, I usually like to set some sort of intention for myself. So it was really just show me what I need to know through this session. And that was this morning, because a lot of residual stuff was showing up, some fears, some anxieties, all sort of mixed emotions. So, but as always with my sessions, I felt more relaxed at the end. I felt better. I will use that word, better, and more open. And I didn't get any great clarity in the session other than what I posted earlier, which was kind of not associated with my intention, which was this whole thing around, as long as we have breath in our bodies, change is possible.
Wow.
Because I don't know, there's been some things that I want to change in my life in different areas. And, I know what it's like because I work with people all the time who want change, and there's these patterns that keep repeating, and it can be so exhausting and so frustrating.
Yes.
But this message dropped in really clearly for me. So maybe something about the accident, I have to believe everything happens for a reason, or at least we can look for the appreciation in everything.
Yes. I think I lean more towards, I used to believe that. And then part of me is like, no, I don't actually believe that everything happens for a reason. I think life happens. And then, like you said, we can extract what we choose to extract from a situation, right? We can sort of, look for the deeper meaning, or how we can heal, or, what we can learn from a situation, or just have the new awareness.
Yeah, I would agree with you, actually, after I said that.
No, it's interesting because I, for a long time, believed that everything happens for a reason. And then I look at some things I'm like, no, I don't think that. I think life is beautiful and loving and giving, and then humans get into the picture. And then, with some people's intentions or situations or just carelessness, like in this case of this family that was driving towards you, and somebody wasn't paying attention for that moment, and which was enough to cause this. But now there's an opportunity, like you said, for healing and reflection and any awareness. I wanted to have you on the show, Jay, because first of all, I loved our first interview, and we'll give Polly Alexander a shout out, who's also been on the podcast, who's a money coach in Ibiza, Spain, and who's a lovely person. And she connected us mostly because I from my request, I learned about you, and I was like, oh, can you make an introduction? But since then, Jay, I did a couple private sessions with you. And then recently, I just keep feeling called to do more breath work. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just do your group code, like you do it through a webinar once a month? And I just had the most profound experience every time I connect with you. You have such beautiful energy. You're so present, and you play the best music. And we need to touch on that, because I wonder, because there's a part of that that transports you. Something about the music allows the mind to settle enough for the body. That's my sense of it, to then like release. And the one on money that we just did a couple of weeks ago, I ended up doing a solo cast because it was just like so profoundly helpful, is so much awareness. And what's so funny, Jay, at the end of the session, my puppy, who's like a ball of energy, came. I had the music playing. I didn't have headphones because I was by myself. And he rested his head on my stomach. for like a good 5 minutes. This is a dog that does not do that. And I think, there's something that's so profound that must happen during these sessions. So that is why you're sitting here again, because I just want for anyone who's curious about it, or I don't know, has been called to maybe explore breath work, to just have more understanding of what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, so happy to have you in the membership, and, to do as many classes as you want. There's so many different themes in there. And I want to talk about your pet first, because it never fails. Never, ever, ever after the sessions, I have pictures after photo in my phone of, clients with a dog or a cat on their chest or on their head, or walking around during the session, very curious about what's happening. Oh, pets are so in tune to energy, and it's incredible, the energy shifts and the energy release during breath work. So I love that. That's amazing. And, I always say we teach what we most need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I am in no way a guru. Money has been one of my biggest challenges, and all the topics that I cover in my membership and week and monthly are things that are near and dear to my heart, and things that I continue to work on too. So the money piece is profound. I think one of the most powerful parts was having you write a letter to money, as if it was I said intimate partner, but somebody really close to you.
Yeah.
What would you say to money in that situation? Because, money is energy. Every component in our life can be looked at like a relationship. And so I know when I did that letter, it was like, I don't trust you. Sometimes you show up, sometimes you don't. I feel like I give more than I receive. And, there was a lot of patterns there in this letter. And interestingly enough, it mirrored a lot of my relationships as well, right? No coincidence.
Wow. Oh, your actual intimate relationships.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Always giving more than I was getting. My pattern was overspending and not getting as much back.
Wow.
So that's the importance of that letter. And I thought it was a nice way to start the session.
Yeah. And just for anyone listening, I did a solo cast, and I sort of walked you through how Jay set it up. So you can listen to that. It's a Monday Musing with Michelle episode. I've only done 4 of those, and I think that's what it's going to be, those 4. But the first one, I recorded it like a day after or 2 days after that Dear Money letter that we did, and the breath work on it. And it was just so powerful that I was like, I really want to share this with everyone who's maybe wants to just try even writing the letter, even without the breath work, because there is so much awareness. And with awareness, there's the opportunity to shift things and take control and heal things that need to be healed. Or then you start going, oh, that's my pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can unhook from it. But when you're in it, and you can't see it, you can't unhook, and then you keep attracting the emotionally unavailable men. Like it was my pattern in my 20s and early 30s. You start seeing all those. But for me, Jay, it was funny. For me, I realized I was the one that betrayed money, and that's what I talked about. I had always had this very trustworthy partner, so giving, always there. I just, I complicated the relationship. And so that was what was funny for me. And I was like, why did I do that? What changed? So we all have work to do. And I think there's a lot of like master coaches and people out there. I mean, I'm a coach. You do coaching through breath work and wellness coaching. And, this idea that everyone's got it figured out, I think it's not fair to people. I think the truth is, I think in some areas where we're teaching, like you are a master breath coach, right? We all have our thing that we feel like really grounded in, where we can help, but we also have the different areas of our lives that there's always parts, or in my case, one that was a consistent, like I always feel like I could teach about money and how to be abundant and manifest, because that's been my pattern. And I was like, well, I have to look at what shifted for me in the last few years, and why did I change that relationship? So we're all sort of this teacher and the student. We all are that.
Yes, I love that. And you hit the nail on the head. It really is awareness, because once we're conscious, either we can consciously fall into the same patterns, or let's face it, right? It takes work. I always say it's like a full-time job, trying to be on top of my thoughts and rewiring and rethinking and repositioning them, especially when you're not feeling well, or if you're tired, in those times, they can start to sneak in. Before you know it, you're back in the hole again.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Well, just let's start. Why is breath work so healing? Why? What is it doing? What is it all about?
Yeah. Well, I always say it rewires. I like that word because people understand what that means. Your brain, your emotional system, even your physical body, actually. And what I love so much is it does bring you that awareness that talk therapy and other modalities can't really necessarily bring you. And that is just a knowing. I call it a knowing. Like you touch on some sort of block or something that's in the way, or you get a download of a word and you get a knowing that, oh my goodness, wow, this is what's getting in the way. So there's almost an energetic connection that is not in our heads at all. The breath takes you into your heart, into your body, and you just are able to feel things on a totally new level, spiritual level, emotional level, energetic level.
Yeah.
And that's where the healing takes place, I think.
Yeah, because I was wondering, like, how is the physical body and like our actual physiology and then the emotions, like what is that connection and how are we tapping into it? Because I also, and I don't know if this is where the chakras come in, but I know you do work around that too.
Yeah. Well, look, most of us live in our heads a lot of the time. That's where a lot of the craziness happens. But of course, our mind, our thoughts, it could be a really wonderful, helpful place too.
Yes.
For me, mostly not so helpful. But literally, I mean, on a physical level, bringing in more oxygen, oxygenating our cells, oxygenating our body, our muscles, our organs, physically helps to detox the body, helps to release, engages this vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. So it does help with stress. So whenever we're more relaxed, which is hard to do sometimes in just seated meditation, at least for me,
yes,
it's difficult to get there sometimes.
Yes.
So what I love about breathwork, it's an active meditation that is good for many people, especially type A people, who can kind of get out of your head into your body and into a really beautiful state of relaxation. And from that place, I think all things are possible. It's almost like a hypnotic state.
Yes. Yeah. So I did the 2 privates with you and then the 1 group actually, and then 1 on my own. When I signed up for the membership, I was telling you, I only got halfway through, only because I was just curious what it was. And then next thing I got sucked into it, but I didn't have the time to do it. But each and every time, as we get to the end of the session, I find that I go into some really Zen, like, I don't know, it's like I'm awake, but I'm not awake state.
Yeah.
And it's so deeply like everything's so quiet. And so it's almost like I've taken this awesome nap, but I'm not asleep. But it's interesting. It's happened at the end of every session.
It's so awesome.
Yeah,
it's
like
so
I'm
awesome.
with you the whole time, but then like something about that last transition piece, I just go somewhere else and then I come back and I'm like, wow, I feel like I just went on like a 2-week vacation. Like it's just so like deeply relaxing. I can't even, there's no way to describe it other than that.
It's restful, isn't it?
Deeply restful.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for people to fall asleep during a session. You're sort of in and out. Some people are in and out of consciousness, and that's actually fine. I also do hypnosis, and during hypnosis, some people are kind of almost in a sleep state, and that's just fine because you're still receiving.
Yeah.
The hypnotic induction, for example. But yeah, it's again, in ideal world, meditation can bring you there to that very, it's very restful, very deep. But I just think it's difficult for us where we're also busy and connected to our phones. And, we need to literally do some active breathing to music, which helps take your mind off of things and on the journey. I always say, you probably remember the first 4 or 5 minutes is the hardest. It's a lot of work sometimes if you're tired. Yeah. And I always joke, people are like, I paid for this. What am I doing?
Right.
This is hard. It's not easy the first little bit, but I always say your body starts to breathe itself after a while.
Yeah. And you're just, you're coaching as we go, you're kind of keeping us going and reminding us to like keep breathing or whatever.
Right.
The other thing that I found really interesting about it is that you don't know what's going to come up, especially in the private session, but even the one that I listened to on my own, it was one topic, let's say abundance or manifest something. And once I got into my body, something completely different wanted to be released. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to mention what happened in my private session with you. There was one where I was like, why is this coming up right now? Like it's something 20 years ago.
Yeah.
What is that about? What is it just locked in there? Obviously, it needs to be released. And if we're all carrying stuff, like if I'm carrying something from 20 years ago, what's that about?
Oh, I mean, not uncommon. That's why I always have people do a series of sessions if they can with me, because you do peel back the layers each time. And it's so common to go back to childhood, for sure, to go back to, because, that's where a lot of our early traumas are formed.
Yeah.
That's a lot of,
but it doesn't even have to be trauma. That was mine. Wasn't a trauma thing.
No, yours wasn't. I always say we don't always understand what shows up.
Yeah.
But it shows, I can promise you 150%, it's always accurate. So if we can just go in and with your situation, acknowledge, I guess, is part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some forgiveness work or something that needs to be done.
Yeah, there may have been.
And then it's like your body, your psyche is just telling you there's something there that needs to be cleared in order to take you to the next level. And we don't always understand, and we don't even need to understand it, actually.
Right.
Yeah, like we do energy clearing. Next month is actually an energy release, and have people connect with blocked energy in their body, and put a color and a shape. And what's interesting is I've seen everything from orange triangles to brick walls to pink bubble gum. Like, it doesn't actually matter what it looks like.
Yeah.
What is important is what it represents, and if we can get some permission to clear it once and for all from your system. So yeah, it's a fascinating journey, never a dull moment. And like you said, what we think will come up often doesn't.
Yeah, because your mind is getting out of the way with it, which is what's so powerful about it, I think. And does it automatically, when you do these sessions, balance out your chakras?
Yeah, I say that in my training and I say that in classes. I really believe it automatically opens and aligns your 7 main chakras. Okay. How I know is because it's personal experience, first of all. I've done so much breathing on my own. And from the very first session, I remember feeling pulsating, throbbing, opening in certain chakras. Like I was like, what is going on here? And I've seen it with clients. It never, ever fails. That we all hold some sort of stress or stuck emotion. And usually it's in some of the energy points, the chakras. Most commonly, it's in like the 4 middle ones, like our throat, which we could talk about today, the heart, the solar plexus, and the sacral. And it's often there because there's a lot of massive physical body there as well. And that's often where we hold our stress. So yeah, but just by breathing, and why I love the 3-part breath that I teach is because it does open up those lower chakras with the belly breath. And then chest breath kind of opens and sends energy up to the upper chakras. So I would say, naturally opens and aligns and can uncork or unblock your energy points.
So cool. It's so, I just find it. And why are we sometimes crying? Like what, you're not even necessarily sad and the tears are coming out. It's maybe, massaging these organs too. I don't know, like what's going on?
Yeah, it can be a series of things. I mean, I remember, again, personal experience when I first started, I just cried and cried and cried every session. Part of it was grief, sadness, disappointment, all of the hurt I was holding, depression. But there was other times I would cry because I felt so much love and so much gratitude and appreciation. So I think, honestly, I like to say it just helps us remember who we really are. We forget. That makes me emotional just saying that, because we forget. And when we remember, it's enough to make you want to cry, because we're just balls of energy. We're not this physical being at all, even though we're so attached, right, to all the stories.
And the stories,
So that's emotional. It's freeing. People cry because they feel free. People cry because they feel angry. People cry because they feel sad. There's a lot.
I love that. And you said it's an invitation. It's an opportunity to remember who we are, which is I believe sometimes tears, like you hear something and it just makes you cry. It's like you're hearing a truth. Your soul's like knowing and remembering. It's like, oh yeah, that just hits you. And so I don't know. I just think it's so healing, and it's so, I don't know. It's fun to see what's going to come up. And
I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure you can relate, Michelle, and you've talked to so many people in your podcast. We're all our worst critics. And, people are always saying how amazing you are, right? How amazing I am. And sometimes it's not always easy to receive because of our programs.
yes.
But when we lay down and breathe, you can actually connect to some of that self-love and self-appreciation.
Yeah.
And again, that's enough to make you cry, because you start to experience what other people see in you.
Truth. Yeah, you're receiving. That's so beautiful. It's interesting. So you were talking about the throat chakra. I think, one of the paths everyone, but women's, I think specifically in the show is for women, have a challenge with is owning their voice. There's a lot of self-editing going on. Talk to us about, is it considered, what is this? What chakra is this? The fifth chakra or is it the fifth? Okay. Mm-hmm. The throat chakra is the fifth chakra. How can we use either just awareness of chakra or breath work to like open that up?
Yeah. Yeah, I work a lot with women as well. And it's probably the most common, that and maybe solar plexus. But, it's
all connected. Yeah.
It's all connected. And I always say the throat is, if we can uncork and open the throat, it's direct access to our heart. So if you can look at that, that's really important. First of all, I vocalize during our sessions, which can be hard for some people, but even letting out, I prefer yells or laughs or screams, just something to let out some
that's
sound.
Why we do that. Yeah.
That's why we do it, even if it's difficult for people. If sometimes we want to talk to ourselves or we want to yell or, we're frustrated, I get people to vocalize whatever they want to vocalize.
Yeah.
Because there's something about uncorking. And also, especially with women, setting healthy boundaries, saying no, asking for what you need. So literally in private sessions in particular, I'll have people I'll say, what do you really want to say to so-and-so or your dad or your mom? What didn't you get to say? You get to say that here today. And there's something healing about just letting it go and vocalizing out loud.
Yeah. And
all
a
the
safe
things.
space. And maybe
and it's not always pretty.
Otherwise. Right. Absolutely. It might not be a kind thing. Could be some anger or whatever. Right.
Exactly. It's just stuck energy. And so what happens when we do that, that's part of the process. We breathe in and out of our mouth for a reason. I know a lot of yogis are like, only breathe in your nose, but I personally disagree. It's just easier. There's more access, I feel, more oxygen flowing in. And we're able to open wide and really open up that throat chakra.
Yes.
Which again has direct access to everything else. So I think that's important. I think it's not uncommon. I mean, it is common in what I see is, thyroid issues in women, right? Things related to the throat. And I think there's no accident, we all hold stuff in different areas. And sometimes there's little ailments and pains and inflammation and health issues correlated with that chakra. So again, awareness is key. I do this a lot too, clearing my throat.
Right.
That's a sign. There's little, people might think that's coincidence, but anything to do with sore throats. I remember when I was singing in musicals, I was so anxious, right? And so stressed. And then it would be often where I would literally lose my voice, before a performance. I was not sick, but the fear was manifesting and the anxiety was manifesting in my throat. You see that with singers a lot. So again, we're all work in progress. We're never going to perfect it, but just awareness of, okay, feeling some anxiety, feeling, I'm not feeling confident. That's another thing. Confidence, speaking your truth.
Yes.
I'm sure you see that a lot with women.
Yes. You can even feel it tightening sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Like a physical tightening in that area.
That's exactly it. Huh. Yeah. That's what I always have clients do of students is just tune in. Overall, where do you hold tension in your body?
Right.
I'll have them close their eyes and scan. Where do you hold tension? Where do you hold resistance? Where do you have recurring injuries? And then that's usually a sign.
Right. And you send breath there?
Yes. And the beauty of this breath is you can direct it to your left hip. You can if you're visual, you can almost picture it like a laser beam as you're breathing in. And just imagine that laser of breath or a tunnel of breath going to wherever you need it, your lower back or your knee, or up through, maybe you have a migraine, you can just visually imagine the breath going there. Everything is energy.
Yes.
So if we think it, we feel it.
Yes.
We can direct our breath anywhere.
Wow. And I don't think I knew you did musical theater, that you sang. Did your breath work when you started doing it help with your voice?
I did musical theater and a lot more singing before breathwork. And God, I wish it had shown up earlier. It would have helped me so much with my stage fright and my nerves and my crazy anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still sing, Jay?
I do. Sometimes I'll sit at my piano and sing, and it helps to lift my spirits as well. Well, again, breath. Oxygen.
I was going to say that. Yeah. I did musical theater as a kid, but I've taken private voice as an adult. Yeah. And, I'm always like, how do I get that note better? And the teacher's like, breath. It's always breath. And, so it's just interesting, right? Because you need the breath support to get, but I'm not calling myself a singer by any stretch.
Well, the breath, I don't think I completely breathe properly into the diaphragm either, like an opera singer, for example, but it certainly takes the pressure off the throat when you breathe properly.
Yeah.
But also, I think we had talked about this, that sometimes you're in a singing class and you feel super emotional and people will start to cry while they're singing.
Yeah.
I believe it's the same, the same method as doing some breath work.
Interesting.
And that's also, you talked about music, right? That's why I think the music is so important too, because it adds to the feeling.
Yeah. You pick the best music.
Thank you.
It's always somehow connected. And I was like, oh, the word, and then you just go with it. And oh gosh, I mean, music alone, right, is like healing. So combined with the breath work is like, it's so awesome. Can you heal physical things like with breath work? Have you seen that?
Yes. I mean, what I see almost every session is a release of physical pain after one session.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say it's not going to come back.
Yeah.
But even my dad, who did a breathwork session with me in Hollywood years ago, he had his shoulder pain for, I don't know, a decade. It was completely gone. So what it does, it brings us awareness to, wow, okay, deep breathing can release physical pain.
Yeah.
I maybe have some control over this. That's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
So it brings an awareness again to, wow, what if I did this more? What if I was more aware? There's a great book called Healing Back Pain. I'm jumping, but Dr. John Sarno, and he talks a lot about the emotions and how stress can restrict our blood flow and cause spasms. So I make that connection too, that if we can send breath, oxygen, energy, open up that space a little bit. I've definitely seen people heal. I've seen, haven't worked intensely with people who are going through like major cancer treatments or anything. But I know for a fact it certainly can help all ailments, bringing in more oxygen, relaxing the nervous system.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen people drop weight. That's quite common, doing regular breath work. And I think that's probably related to cortisol, like lowering the cortisol, not having the spikes.
Maybe balancing out hormones or something.
Balancing hormones.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot we still don't understand with breathwork. I'm still learning myself.
Yeah.
But I only know from personal experience of working with so many people.
Right. You've been doing this a long time. It's funny. I usually open up with a bio, but you've been in the world of health for like 30 years, right? And personal growth and all of that stuff. Yes. So I will mention your bio at the end, but I want to stay with where we are. How many, like, is breath work just something we should just be doing regularly? I mean, it's interesting. So some things got so popularized, right? Like Wim Hof, like between the ice buckets, and I don't know, he's got some breath thing he does on YouTube. I don't know. I've heard people mention like a 10-minute whatever, but like, should this be a daily practice? How do you approach it?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. I think like all modalities, I personally think it's good to continue to do long term. But, sometimes things resonate for a period of time in someone's life, and then they try something else, which
That's
I totally
true.
get.
Yeah.
However, when I first started, I did it every day. I did full sessions every day for like 3 months. And I don't suggest that because it's super intense and you're going to process.
Deep therapy, probably.
Yeah, I was pretty exhausted. Not going to lie. Now I'll do 1 or 2 sessions myself a week because it's an extended session. Yeah. Some people
do you do it for yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
I just play my playlists. I also hire one of my students and friends who's really amazing master breathwork and meditation guide. So sometimes I'll hire him to take me through a process.
Yeah.
Too, because it's nice to have somebody hold space for us.
I was going to say that when somebody holds space, I think that
it's a very different experience.
It's kind of like a little sacred bond there of like permission to, you know what I mean, to be held in a way. Just
Definitely.
like with somebody else knowing your truth and without any judgment or right. And you do such a beautiful job with that.
Thank you. I think that's the key for all coaches and healers and therapists is to normalize people's pain and trauma,
Yeah.
And being trauma informed is just, always just being able to hold space and not, and just accepting and just being with what is.
Yeah.
I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've experienced a lot of it myself. So nothing really surprises me. But yeah, so I think practice, if you're doing an extended breathwork practice once or twice a week is good.
Yeah.
Maybe in the beginning you want to do a few more to really, again, peel those layers back and get really deep.
Yeah.
But as maintenance, some sort of weekly or bi-weekly practice is really good. There are shorter breathwork practices. I don't know. I just personally prefer to go the extended version because I get more out of it.
Yeah. If you're going to do it, you're going to.
That's kind of what I do. I do other spiritual practices as my morning practice, but some sort of breath work, even a 5-minute, practice would really help boost energy and give you some clarity.
Yeah.
So Wim Hof does a lot of breath holds, which I don't really do.
I haven't done his. I wasn't sure. Yeah. I don't know what there's different breath practices out there, right?
There are so many. And, I like the word breath work because it's out there now, but at the same time, it's almost limiting, because you've been to the sessions that I've done. It's almost limiting to say I'm going for breath work because it's kind of a lot more, isn't it?
So much more than that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like so good. Yeah, no, it's so, I look forward to the class now. I'm like, oh, and it's fun because you have in the membership, you've got the recordings, which is great. But I love the energy of the live class. So I was so glad I was able to actually show up for that. And then it becomes like something you're doing for your self-care. It's like, you know what? No, I'm going to show up live because it's once a month for an hour or whatever. And I'm going to make time for that.
Right. Yeah. I think it's nice, the synergy of the group to be in the
even though it's a webinar, you can't see anyone other than you, but somehow you can feel it. It was great.
And we use the chat box, right? So you can share anonymously what's going on. So I have a better idea of what's going on for different people, and I can help guide you that way. So it is more personalized when you're able to come live.
Maybe that's part of it too. What's the most profound healing you've seen, or either personally or I don't know what you can share, but like anything like that was like, whoa, that's intense. Like I didn't realize that could happen.
I have seen so many intense experiences. I post some of them on my Instagram. One was with a man I worked with recently. We did some energy release, which I talked about earlier, and he had a pretty rough upbringing with drugs and family and growing up in a bad neighborhood, and he's quite successful now and helps to guide people, but hasn't completely been open and vulnerable about his past with worry that people might not accept him. And so what came up was a really deep healing around his dad. And he had done a lot of work on himself, especially around dad. But something in that particular session around forgiveness, really profound, really deep, really emotional. Makes me emotional talking about it. That's why I love this work.
Yes.
Changed his life in that moment.
Wow.
And so that was profound. I had a session not long ago, and I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years, but it goes to show, hate to break it to you, the work's never done, right?
And that's what I was wondering. That's what we all have new experiences, or maybe energetically, mentally, physically, whatever, spiritually ready to release something that we weren't 2 years ago. So that's why it comes up, right?
Yeah, we're ever expanding. And what showed up for me was some stuff around my heart connected to to mom and granny. I can say that, and severing some of the energetic cords. And then what showed up directly behind my heart was this black, almost a wet cauliflower looking energy of grief.
Oh gosh.
And it sounds bizarre to people listening probably, but in the moment, it's very clear what's going on. And I just always trust the process. So I personally did it all myself, just cleared out this wet, dark grief. And I realize it's all part of where I'm going and what I want to achieve and who I want to be in the world. And it caught me off guard because I have done a lot of work. And so thankfully, not every session is that extreme.
Right. So profound.
There was a lot of emotion, a lot of sobbing, a lot of yelling, a lot of all sorts of things.
Healing. It's also healing to just let it out. And you don't want that. You don't want it stuck in your cells and your body and right in your chakras. For somebody who's not familiar, what can you just explain what the chakras are essentially?
Yeah. They're just they're like the word actually means disc in Hindu. So they're energy points, energy discs that when aligned, when balanced, when open, they spin clockwise energetically. And we have 7 main ones, but we have so many more than that. And the first one is the root. And they go in colors as well. So the root is red. It's kind of at the lower coccyx, lower spine down through our legs and feet. That's about safety, protection, abundance, grounding, early programming, and connecting to nature, just really physical stuff.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the sacral, which is under the belly button into the lower back. That's orange. And that is healthy sexuality, sensuality, passion, creativity, life force energy, chi, that sort of energy. And by the way, in all of them, there's also negative emotions that can sit there. For example, the sacral holds shame and guilt. So we can always correlate, what emotion are you holding? There's a good chance it sits in certain chakras. The solar plexus, right under the ribs, and that's yellow, vibrant yellow, and that's self-worth, personal power, warrior energy, confidence, value. The heart, it's beautiful green, and that's really self-love, compassion, forgiveness, the ability to not just give love but receive, gentleness, all that sort of thing. And then the throat, which we talked about, expressing your truth, asking for what you need, setting healthy boundaries, getting your message out into the world, great for singers, writers, actors, anybody who uses their message out to the world.
Yeah.
Third eye, right here. As my comedian friend says, better than Botox. The third eye is all about clarity and foresight, intuition, some kind of vision of where you'd like to be. For very visual people like I am, third eye is can be pretty active.
Yeah.
And then crown, just kind of energetically on top of the head, running upward. It's beautiful, beautiful royal purple. And that really, I always say, just connects you to all that is God, angels, ancestors, guides. Yeah, so it's a beautiful channel. It goes very physical, heavy, almost to moving to light, ethereal.
Beautiful. And so, the breath work does help heal and balance the chakras. If we're maybe spinning the wrong direction or whatever you called it.
Exactly. Have you ever used pendulums, Michelle?
No, I have not.
Oh, yeah. This is a fun thing. And again, it's like physical. It's almost quantum physics. Everything is energy. It's a science. It's not even so woo-woo, but you can use, I have a beautiful koa wood pendulum. You can hold it over the chakras.
And see which way it spins.
Generally, if it goes clockwise, that means everything's flowing and open. Sometimes it'll just stay stuck or go backwards.
Interesting. It moves on its own. You're not.
No, it does. Yeah. You want to be careful just to hold it and just wait and just see what happens.
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah. So that's another I've tested before and after Reiki and before and after breath work.
That's right.
And
You do Reiki as well.
yeah, do a bunch of things.
I know you do. Well, I saw that, like, yeah, you had been trained in Reiki, massage therapy, right? A wellness coach,
Hypnosis, yeah.
all sorts of things. But it was really the breath work that sort of integrated all of the power of most of those modalities, right?
Yeah, it actually strengthens people's ability to do other healing modalities. So if you want to tap in more to psychic energy, I can almost promise you breathwork will make you more psychic. I have no...
Do you call it psychic or intuitive?
Well,
or both?
Either, depending if people are...
Yes.
Either you will start to think about people and they'll show up. You'll start... It's not uncommon for me to see a color and my client says, yes, that's the color I was seeing. I was never that person before.
Right. And it just starts...
Or I'll be like, I'm getting, whatever.
Somebody's
I'm
name,
seeing you with a baby, with a new daughter, and she's like, I was just thinking about being a mom. Like these things happen all the time. And if I can do
pictures, it's interesting because for you, it comes up visually. I wonder if other people comes up like in a different way, depending on how they receive, like
it totally depends on how they receive. Exactly. Which is why also in my teaching, I try to keep open to different senses, right? Just because I'm visual, I want to, somebody in my group might be auditory or they might smell or
right, more kinesthetic or something like that.
Yeah.
I just think this is, it's interesting because this is more of a conversation versus like a lot of times I'm like, okay, let's give tactical, tangible, but I think for somebody who's interested in breath work, they should explore it. What can you leave them with today, Jay? It's just, like if somebody's curious about it, or what do you want them to know?
Yeah. Well, I think if they're curious, it's definitely worth, there's always nudges. I think the universe is nudging us towards healing and expansion and growth. Trust me, I did not want to go to this breathwork group 6 or 7 years ago, but I went and thank God I did. So just follow the nudges. So if there's curiosity, I have a free download on my website.
Say that. Yeah. If you want to experience Jay's, definitely download his free one for sure. Yeah. I think that's how I started. And then next thing I know, I'm doing the private and now membership, but just because I love it so much,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good way. Explore other breathwork teachers and healers.
Sure.
I don't know too many people that have such an extensive library that I do, for example. So it's really nice. You can go through and you can either rent it one off or just do the membership, which is cheaper, and you can choose as many as you want. And there's just different themes that will correlate with different people based on what they're going through.
Yeah.
So that would be a good option. But I think starting with the free sample on my site, just to see what it feels like, to get a sense. I combined it with some Haponapono, I believe, which is a beautiful self-love and forgiveness practice.
Yes.
Which pairs really nicely with breath work.
Yes. Yes. And you shared about that last time. I love it so much. It's just four phrases, right? Do you want to wrap up with those?
Oh, yeah. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
And why did you incorporate the Haponapono with the breath work? How did that come into being?
Yeah, good question. I learned Haponapono years before breath work, and I thought it was interesting. And I was like, oh, this is nice. But then, I don't know, something told me as I was breathing at home one day to try Haponapono on myself, and then on my parents, and then on other people. And I got to tell you, I could feel every word like I've never felt before. And it's because breathwork opens your heart and everything resonates differently, So I just, again, got an inkling to try that. And that's what I taught for over 2 years, every week, twice a week in Hollywood. Just this very simple process of breath and Ho'oponopono. Wow. And it's always different every time you do it.
I love it. And it's, yes. And follow that voice. For me, it was, because I'm such a curious person. I can want to do everything. And it's always at the same time. So once I'm curious about something, I never just pick one thing. It's I'll do 5 things. And I'm like, what? That's not good. So I was like, no, the breath work keeps coming back.
Yeah.
So just do Jay's thing and see how it goes, I
think that's a good start. And, I just wouldn't mind following up on that because your question was about how to start. And I think not all breathwork will resonate. I believe this is the most transformative style, personally, from all the ones I've tried. But I would openly say not for everybody.
Right.
I would also say give it a chance, because, I know people have come to groups and people are like having all these emotional releases and they're like, I didn't feel anything.
Right.
And that could be really hard. Like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
So I would say give it a chance. Do it, do it a bunch of times.
Right.
Because some people, I want to say crack open, but some people crack open at different times.
Yeah.
And the goal is not to get someone sobbing or feeling deep emotion necessarily, but it is nice when we can do that, because again, it's a release.
Healing. It's so healing.
It's healing.
I love being with you, Jay. You're just such a beautiful soul. And I'm glad that you were well. I didn't expect that to be the beginning of our call. And I'm sorry you had that experience, but I'm glad that you're well. And I want to direct people to your website, that free breath work, if they want to check it out themselves or just follow you online. So let's give them all your places to connect with you.
For sure. And I want to say, I feel better talking to you. You always have that effect on me. You're like my soul sister.
Oh,
you really
Jay,
are.
You're such a
I just
sweet...
adore you.
Same.
And I feel better. So thank you.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Good. I'm so glad.
So my website is BreatheOnIt.net. That's BreatheOnIT.net. And if you do BreatheOnIt.net/heal, that takes you directly to the free subscription.
Perfect.
So, and everything is on my website, but I use Instagram more than anything. And it's BreatheOnIt with Jay, Jay.
Yes. Thank you, Jay Bradley. Like I said, I didn't even do your bio, but people just got to, and I'll, in the show notes. So anyone who wants to find any of the resources, whatever, head to thegoodlifecoach.com. Jay's interview will be there. Jay Bradley, Breathe On It with Jay, and all the links he just referenced. And he's also the author of the book, Live, Look, Feel, the 12-week guide to live longer, look younger, and feel better. Thanks for being here, Jay. You're such a kind and giving soul. And I'm just grateful that Polly connected us, because I'm really enjoying this work so much with you. So thank you. And thanks for your time today on the show.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so grateful. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you gained some new information or inspiration for your life. That the essence of this show is to really wake up to what's possible for you, to reclaim your beautiful voice, and to really learn to love and prioritize yourself. So if you gained any value from any of the conversations you've tuned into, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. You can do that right now on your phone. And please do consider leaving a rating and review if you have yet to do so on Apple Podcasts. It's actually how more women can find the show. And I really want to grow a community of women who are loving themselves and living full on. So thank you as always for tuning in. And I look forward to reconnecting with you next Wednesday. Bye for now.